everyone, and welcome to a Vic Akers Wonderland Road to Stadium Australia interview special. Again, yes, once again, I am joined by Unnati Naidu, and I am very, very, very excited for this particular interview. It's one that I've been wanting to do for quite a while. When I first reached out to Unnati, I said, "Do you want to talk about Spain?" And the answer was, "When can I get on?" So I'm very, very excited to pick through this. So I'm going to start with you, Unnati. The obvious question is obviously you don't live in Spain. You're not Spanish. You don't live in Spain. How on earth is it that you fell in love with Barcelona, with Spain, with Alexia Putellas? How did that relationship come about?
Hi, Adam. First of all, thank you for having me. Um, you know, yeah, I don't live in Spain. I live in India, for God's sake. Yeah, for me, I started watching football at a very early age, and my household is still very much divided between Barcelona and Arsenal. You know about this,
Yep.
and so obviously my love for Barcelona just started at a very young age, and I still watch both clubs. Be it the men's team or the women's team. Obviously, I've stopped watching the men's team as much as I used to back in the day, but it sort of has been a catalyst in making me this huge fan that I am today of the women's team. And so 2017 all started then when I started watching the Euros on TV and just stumbled upon it one day, watched Alexia Putellas play, against Portugal. And yeah, I think that's where it started. I got very keen and curious and interested, and I said, you know what, I want to watch the regular season, see how it goes about. Then realize that okay, the clubs that I loved watching do exist for the women's team as well. So I want to go headfast into this, and multiple years later, here I am with this enormous amount of love for these teams, and be it club or country. So yeah, here's how I am here.
I mean, we've discussed a lot off air and on here as well. And anybody who follows you on social media will know the deep passion you have for Barcelona and Spain, and not just that, but the knowledge you have as well. You write so much about it. I do urge you, if you did get a chance, to go online and find her works on Like Sporting Her. You've written some really good stuff in it, and there's no one better I can think of to talk about Spain, and that is obviously why we're here. And there is a lot to pick through. We'll start quickly with their track record. Made their first appearance in the Euros in 1997 and got to the semi-finals, which is the furthest they've ever got in the competition. The slight caveat is that there were limited numbers in the tournament at the time, the group stage, and then he went straight to semi-finals. So yeah, Spain got out of the group stage and then lost. We didn't see them until 2013 when they played against England. And unfortunately for England, we lost. Spain were actually the third bottom ranked team in the tournament. I don't think anybody really sort of knew much about them at the time, but we certainly did afterwards when they mugged us in the 93rd minute. It's a thrilling game to watch, and it was sort of signalled the end of Hope Powell's England and sort of the rise of Spain. It was a combination of Alexia Putellas and Karen Barsley funneled the winner in. But they've had some really weird results, Spain. Euro 2017, obviously the first one you followed, was when Jorge Vilda came on board. Only beat Portugal. I just want you to pick up maybe, like, how on earth did Spain, in a group that featured England, Scotland, and Portugal, firstly they beat Portugal, but how on earth did they lose to England and lose to Scotland?
This is in nice words. This is professional words, I would say. This is what happens when you have good players, but you just simply don't know how to utilize these players, and how to, or rather, how you don't know how to play them tactically, because the biggest reason why Spain plays the way it plays, it resembles a lot of what Barcelona does right now. And the reason behind that is because they've played with each other for a very long time, but they don't necessarily have a person, head coach, really, who's guiding them, because it's like they play by themselves. And that's why you see, obviously we've seen in the past as well, like even with the men's team, that Spain prefers to play from their midfield. But for the majority of the time that we've seen the women play, it's always been them guiding themselves rather than the coach guiding themselves. So it's always been like that. It's like you could have the players who deserve to be there, who are possibly better and more deserving, but they aren't on the team. They're not even in the squad sometimes. And then you have other times where they're not guided in the way that they should be. And perhaps that's one of the biggest reasons why you don't see them go rather than not reaching their fullest potential.
I mean, in that tournament, they got out the group stage. It was one win, which again was a bit bizarre. Played Austria, 0-0, went out on penalties. Manu Zinsberger in goal, so obviously no penalties. She's quite good at those. Should also add, 2015. That didn't go so well for you either. I think it was a group stage exit, I believe. We then come to 2019, USA. Bit of a it was France, but you got to USA, got at the group stage. USA's last 16 went out with 2 Rapinoe penalties. I would say, just for the record, because Unnati will murder me otherwise, I should add context: highly contested VAR given penalties scored by Rapinoe. Just putting that disclaimer on the bottom. And then we shall move on to Euro 2022. Now, this is the first time I saw Spain in person. They had played in the Arnold Clark Cup. I think they were the first team to get a clean sheet against Serena Williams England, and they looked great. Watching in person, I thought they are the most, I would say, out of all the teams I've seen, they are the most technically intelligent individuals on the pitch. I've not seen a team with the passing, the movement, the telepathy they have. It's all second nature. They were passing like rings around the Germans. Finland, they destroyed. I mean, they went behind to Finland, but then they got their act together and won that game. I went to Brentford to watch Spain versus Germany. Thought this was going to be a really good game, and it was technically, but it was also bizarre. If you can watch the highlights, I do advise. Germany scored with a bit of a gaff at the back. I think Spain missed a really good 1v1, and then it was just this weird situation where Spain just had full control of possession, full control of the game, and just lacked the ability to score a goal. And then Germany got a second one to kill the game. And then against Denmark, which I went to as well, that was a weird one where Spain basically clinched it at the end, 1-0. But they, again, really struggled to break down Denmark. So I couldn't really understand why is it that Spain struggle with low block teams and teams that seem to set up deep and just allow them to play the ball. Because we've seen Barcelona annihilate teams in the Champions League, and there is a bit of a sort of mirror between Barcelona and Spain. But why at the Euros did they struggle so much to score a goal?
I think, Adam, you need to go back to the time in order to answer this question, you need to go back to the time where the squad was announced. You need to take, you have to consider the injuries that the squad had. And at the same time, you need to consider the fact that there was a striker sitting on the bench, pretty much rotting the entire tournament.
We're going to get to that.
While Jorge Vilda decided that he wasn't going to use her at all. So, when the squad was announced for Spain, it was very bizarre to me. Because quite honestly, the first fact was that, ever since Virginia Torresia went out, we struggled to have just a backup for Patrick Hierro in the position of a pivot, and we needed someone to really come into that position, and we knew that we had Maitane Lopez, who could come in and take that position, give good enough a backup to Patrick Guijarro, who we know is, in my opinion, she is one of the best sixes in the world. One of the best pivots in the world. Like she's a player who's so intelligent. We've seen exactly, like, I don't want to bring up Champions League again,
Go for
even though I'm still on a high, but she's a player who's played 3 different positions in 3 different Champions League finals and has done outstanding in every single one of them. So for me it was like, why did we not have Maitane Lopez in the team?
So who was playing? No answer. So who was playing as a forward in those games for Spain?
I think for the most part we had Alba Redondo, Lucia Garcia, Esther Gonzalez.
Yeah. So I remember when I was in a hotel in Manchester. I think it was just before the England versus Austria game, and the news came through of Alexia Putellas. She had, and I think it must have been that there was an injury in training at the training camp, and she's done her ACL, and obviously football fans devastated. Best player in the world, was great for Barcelona to get them to a Champions League final, scored in the final. And it was almost, she was going to be the big superstar of the tournament, and then suddenly that sort of snatched away from her. From a fan England ruthless tactical viewpoint, there was a bit of it thinking, we've dodged a bullet there. Alexia, because Spain, as we obviously came about, they were the team we ended up having to face in the quarterfinals, and you think you take Alexia out of Spain, suddenly you think you might have a chance here. Then you lost. It was Hermoso as well. She had an injury. She had 2 big injuries, and there was this striker. What was the name of the young striker? What was her name again? The one that Bilder refused to play.
Amayur Sariegi.
Yeah. So. Yeah, there was a lot of weird sort of decisions because everyone was talking about the striker saying, you've got to play here, you've got to play, he's really good, you've got to play it, and they just wouldn't for some reason. We get to the quarterfinals. Spain get through the group stage, knock out Denmark. We waltz through. England versus Spain at the Amex. It's the only game I never went to in the tournament. But to be honest, I'm glad I didn't because of all the games in the Euros, even compared with the final against Germany, this was the most scared. I was watching England play. This was the game I really did think we were going to get knocked out on, because of that high technical level Spain play at. When we see Barcelona steamroll teams in Europe, Spain's exactly the same. They can just play at a high level, and the way they, for about, I'd say 60 to 70 minutes, England just did not have a sniff. Kira Walsh, the key sort of pivot, it was Bon Mati, did a number on her, completely took her out of the game. And it was like the whole magic of our tournament, the whole magic of the tournament we were hosting was just sort of sucked out of the stadium, and you were just watching this Spanish masterclass who had been sort of okay throughout the group stage, suddenly were playing football, brilliant football, high level football, and you're thinking, how are we gonna? Where's our way into this? They get the goal. They actually score a goal. It's a good goal. Daly obviously got done with a bit of on the wing with a bit of trickery, and they tuck it away. And you're just thinking, when are the subs going to make the difference? Obviously, Serena makes her sub, as you'll know, with Toon and Russo. But they weren't the game changers. It was the Spanish substitutions that actually changed the game. And I wanted you, maybe you could come in and just, because we did a big, Twitter space chat after the game. You were quite passionate about this. So I was going to say, how on earth did Spain throw away this game?
I just want to get to to one point which we didn't necessarily talk about as much. Sure. Was when Alexia's injury was announced, I don't even think it was announced per se. It was just said that Alexia is just injured in the during training. That's the statement they put out. She's injured during the training. Scans pending, medical, action pending, and then we're going to get back to with the official diagnosis and stuff. Every single person that I know, who is a fan, be it Barcelona, be it Spain, had tears in their eyes because we knew how big a tournament this one was for her, especially coming from a Champions League loss. Okay, and this is kind of deja vu again for us, because the Champions League final in 2021, which we won, if every Barcelona fan knows the kind of trauma that we went through, because 2 days prior, it was just the day prior, the match day -1 training session, we saw that Alexia had her quadricep, like her thigh was completely wrapped up, and she was not training with the rest of the team. She was doing individual training, and she was on the sidelines, and our hearts were in our mouth because at that time, it was one of the biggest games for her, in a way. And we were like, is she not going to play one of the biggest games of her life? So everybody had tears in their eyes. But, when we saw her on the pitch and when, at the final, and then she scored, it was like a relief, And the sad part was that we were, after having the deja vu that, she's possibly injured again, are we going to see her possibly make her come back? And, sadly, that did not happen because the RFEF then released a video of her in crutches with Mappy Leon in the back, which, by the way, I was not too happy about, the video being released. But the video of her coming out of the elevator and going into the car, every single one of us were like looking at her knee. We were like, it's an ACL.
Yeah.
And, it's dreadful that, we were thinking about it. But the fact that her face, Alexia is someone who, doesn't show a lot of emotions on the pitch because that's just her. And she's, it's kind of explained a lot in her documentary as well. But then her face depicted everything because she was so emotionless. And then you have Mappy Leon in the back who looked kind of scared and, kind of angry, scared, wanting to take care of her friend, protective, everything at the same time. It all showcased on her face. And everyone was like, Alexia's not coming back. And that was where every single person was scared that, okay, not only has Spain lost out on a huge, asset, to their team, one of the most important players of their team. But at the same time, it started scaring everyone because we knew that Alexia is not someone who can live without football.
Were fans at that point, we'll get back to the game in a minute, but just quickly on that one, were fans writing off the Euros at that point? Did they think, without Alexia Putellas, like I can only think of, and this is a very tenuous thing with the England men's team growing up, it was always like, we need David Beckham to play. If David Beckham's not playing, we're not going to win the tournament, or Michael Owen or Wayne Rooney. And we're not going to win now. Wayne Rooney's done his metatarsal or whatever. So with Alexia Putellas having ACL, she's out of the tournament. Did everyone think, were people thinking, we'll do it for Alexia, do it for her? Or was an element of, we're not going to win this one, are we, without her? Was it all hopes pinned on Alexia?
There were two sides, to this. There were a group of people who never had any expectations from Spain, for a good reason why as well. Yeah. And I know we're going to get into it later on. But then there was another group who were hoping that Spain somehow pulls it off because we knew that in the team we had a group of players who were so good and good enough to take on the rest of the team in the Euros. So there was a group that were thinking that, we have a good team and we can still do it and we can win the Euros for Alexia. So there were two sets. One was completely like, we never had any expectations. Now that Alexia is gone, we have no more expectations for this team. And then there was a group of players, there was a group of people who were thinking that, okay, the team is still good enough and that we can beat the rest of the teams, which, in my opinion, would have been possible if
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, we should stress, because we should stress with the team. I say Spain are not a one-player team. It is not just Alexia Bates versus the world. There is so much talent stocked in that team. It is. I mean, there is a bit of a mostly Barcelona tilt on it, but there's plenty of talent scattered. As like some on your Batia, Alexandra. The players do also play in with WSL, which we've seen. So I want to go back to the game because I'd say for 60, 70 minutes, Spain are winning that game. If nothing changes, Spain are winning that game. How on earth did they lose it?
Questionable technical choices, in my opinion, because the first half was pretty even, in my opinion. But then second half was where things sort of changed because we had the addition of Adina Del Castillo, who absolutely took over Rachel Daly. Like, you cannot deny it. You cannot deny it. But she took over and she put Rachel Daly to shame. I'm sorry to say that.
I mean,
but
Rachel Daly. She went rampant. She went after him, and she was like, "No, I'm going to take you here." And just suddenly, you realise she's not actually a fullback; she's actually a striker. Even though, it's a long debate there. But the moment she'd done Daly, suddenly it's like
debate for another pod, possibly.
Another pod, yeah. So where is Rachel Daly's ideal position? But yeah, she unfortunately, Daly got done there, and all of a sudden, defence wide open, Spain score. I think you had another great chance at a cross that Earps just managed to sort of tip away. There was one off the line. I was watching it and I was writing, like I said, the last rights in our tournament. I was absolutely gutted because there was just tactically I couldn't see anything happening. But as you said, there was a substitution made, and I believe he withdrew one of the midfielders and put an extra defensive midfielder on. Is that how
If I'm not wrong, he did pull out Aitana Bonmati.
He subbed Bonmati off.
Mm-hmm. If I'm not wrong, because I actually can't remember. But the thing is that he's made multiple substitutions. He has that mentality that we've seen in multiple games. Is that if Spain scores one goal, they will just sit behind. They'll just sit back and possibly try to defend. That's his tactic. But every other time, you see the mentality that Barcelona has. Even if they're scored 9 goals in a game, they will still go ahead, to try and get more goals. That's their mentality. But against, in Spain, it's a different tactic, and you always seen them sit back because that's exactly kind of what happened in that game. They were sitting back, and then you had substitutions like these being made, where instead of adding on the attacking prowess that you had sitting on the bench in Amayu Sariegi, do I even have to tell you that she is amongst the top 3 goal scorers of the season? In the 21-22 season, she was amongst the top 3 goal scorers, top 5 if I'm not wrong, top 5. Yeah. So you have a goal scoring power sitting on the bench. We need goals right now. What are you doing? Why is she sitting on the bench? Why is she on the bench the entire tournament? You did not call up Nerea Izagirre for the tournament. Why? She is again an attacking and defensive prowess. She was again amongst the top 5 goal scorers of the season. Is an absolute mad human of an attacker for Real Sociedad. Why was she not on the squad? So there were multiple things wrong within that match. That just Jorge Vilda being Jorge Vilda, but at the same time, it was like when you have such substitutions made, you just end up, I don't know, in a way losing out on the fact that the opposition scored, and then you just get scared of the fact that, oh shit, they scored.
Yeah, I can have some sympathy because as an England fan with our men's team, we've seen it happen before in tournaments where we feel like, certainly recently with Gareth Southgate, we've had a few games when, like, I think it's Kieran Trippier in a World Cup and Luke Shaw in the Euro final. We get the early goal and we're thinking, we're good here. I remember a few with the golden generation against Portugal. We got an early goal, went 1-0 up, and then there's this element of just like,
oh yeah,
we don't.
Sorry.
Oh,
I need to
yeah, correct.
Yeah, I need to correct myself here. So what Jorge Vilda does, he did not substitute Aitana Bonmatí. No, he actually. So at the beginning of the game, when we saw the team sheet come out, there were questions about Teresa Abaera, who plays for Real Madrid. But there were questions on whether she was going to fit into the team because we hadn't seen her play all tournament. Basically, and everyone was like, she's going to be coming on for one of the most important matches of the tournament, at this stage. But throughout this entire game, she had done so well that everyone's question was, why is she being taken off? So she was the one who was taken off, and instead we had Laia Alexandre come on, and the one that Jorge Vilda made with taking out Marta Cardona and bringing in Atinia del Castillo, that was a perfect tactical change in my opinion, because we saw immediate impact of Atinia taking over Rachel Daly and providing all that space that we did Spain didn't have in the first half. So all the crosses were coming in, and there were multiple opportunities that because if you go to see, Del Castillo makes an immediate impact with the goal coming in right after, because she's the one providing the assist to Esther Gonzalez, who scored the goal. So that was the one change that actually worked out in Vilda's favor. But then
one change,
and then he goes ahead, makes another change, and messes it all up. So
this is a bit I was going to get to with the golden generation. There was a Euro 2004 game against Portugal. We 1-0 up, and you think, right, we need to push on. Our star striker Bruni did get injured, but you watch the game, we just lose the midfield. We just retreat, thinking we just got to hold out. If you hold out, it's a few minutes. If you hold out, it's fine. And for me, it's the move of a coward. It's the move of somebody who's not brave and bold enough to say, no, you're on top. Don't be scared. Keep going, keep the foot on. Because the moment you release the initiative, the moment you let them back in, you'll never get it back. And that's what happened in the game. England, Kira Walsh got more on the ball for England. Spain pushed further and back, and it was a bit of a scrappy goal. Some Spain fans think it was a foul on Russo. By Russo on the defender. For me, it's just strength. She doesn't jump off the ground. She doesn't see Russo coming behind her. It's just strength. And I think at that moment, there's a bit you see that the Spain sort of mentality, because they have this aura of invincibility. And the moment they were sort of wounded, you just saw their composure go. I think their sub goalkeeper got booked for complaining on the touchline. You saw them surrounding the ref because
Misa Rodriguez.
Yeah. And I think that the players sort of knew that the moment was sort of slipping from them. Going to extra time, Stanway scores an absolute screamer. Vilda finally brings on the striker and the young striker, and she looked really good. And you're thinking, like, where was she against Germany? I would love to have seen her play against Germany. I'd love to see her play against Denmark. And
she was, like, sorry, I'm calling you off, but this is where I'm going to get increasingly passionate about this. Is that when you saw Amayu Sariegi come on, you saw the face of the game change again, because suddenly Spain was attacking again. Spain was creating chances, and Spain were really close to, converting it into a goal.
I mean, we didn't get a sniff. We didn't after we got the Stanway screamer in, and it was a scream. We didn't really have another sniff at goal, and we were, Spain did come at us. They just had nothing in the tank.
It just pissed me off at the time, because I was like, why wasn't she? It's really telling when he brings her on in the 100th minute of the game. Okay. It just still fascinates me so much and infuriates me, because you have a player like her sitting on the bench who could possibly make such huge impact on the entire tournament. She could have, I understood for one point that, she wasn't playing against Finland. She could have done great against Germany. She could have done great against Denmark. And then she could have done great against England, because as soon as she comes on, you suddenly see that, the game changes game. Spain is suddenly dominant again, because there was a point after the first goal that Esther Gonzalez scored that you saw Spain just take a step back, and England started pushing on to them. And England kept pushing on and on and on, and that's how they got the next two goals. And after Amayur Sariegi came on, it was like England had just taken their step back,
and
then it was Spain pushing on. And trust me, Adam, I'm telling you, had he gotten her on, not in that time, but a little earlier, possibly, I think there was a very good chance that Spain would have equalized, and the game would have possibly gone into penalties.
I'm with you, but seeing her come on, I mean, it is obviously, we see it in the microcosm because extra time. It's not a proper game to ours. I do think if he had brought her on in the second half, but he didn't. He went defensive, and I do. Again, it's tactical. I can see why you want to. It's knockout football. You want to hold on for the 1-0 win, but it wasn't the right move. It was done too early, and
exactly.
they lost initiative. And then the fallout after that, obviously Spain go out. It's another knockout game they've lost. I thought England, I was very much relieved, and also felt, well, if we've beaten Spain, the tournament's open for us. It's our moment. Spain, it's like they've got so much talent, but it's being unfulfilled. So I'm now looking forward, obviously, to this World Cup. But here's where we get to the big moment of the podcast. I think
the story never ends with Spain.
The story never ends. Okay, so this is the bit we've put it off long enough. So here we go. There was a statement that came out from the players. Now, I think you originally said they were. Well, okay, well, you know the full facts. There was a bombshell that hit the news. Spain dropped a huge bombshell on the news. Unnati, the stage is yours.
Okay, so this was in September, where we had the team had a camp when they played against Australia, if you remember. Oh no, wait, was it Australia? No, I am not sure now. But there was a camp. My
international camp. There was a friendly, yeah.
Yeah, there was a friendly, and you saw Irene Paredes just sitting there at one of the press conference, because there was, there was news leaked at the time that the players have gone to Luis Rubiales, who is the president of the federation, the Spanish Federation, the RFEF. And they'd gone to them stating that they wanted the coach out. This was the news that came out, that they wanted the coach out, and the players, the captains, have gone ahead and spoken to the president about this, because they weren't able to produce the results as much as needed, and at the same time there was information stating that the players have also asked for better environment in the camp, more professionalism, better resources, etc., to up their game so that they can perform better in such big tournaments. And that was the information that came out of the Spanish camp, and it just took everyone not by shock, but it was like suddenly you saw Irene Paredes being portrayed as the perpetrator of this entire situation, because you had Jorge Vilda, who was behaving as if nothing had happened during the press conferences, and then you had the players come on, and Irene Paredes, the captains were made to make a statement. They had to sit in front of the media, and they were barely given like 10 minutes, possibly not even 10 minutes, I would say, but barely a few minutes, while Jorge Vilda ended up taking a 35-minute slot. And at that time you could see Irene Paredes' face, and where she said that, they've never asked for the coach to be dismissed, and all they wanted was professional environment for the players, and in order to perform better. But the most interesting fact is that the players had been to Rubiales, a meeting with him before the Euros. And another thing, another very fascinating thing happened before the Euros was the fact that Jorge Vilda's contract was renewed until 2024, before the Euros.
Mm.
So
that's quite the show of faith for a man who's never got past the knockout stage. I mean, we should probably I want to just quickly. I don't know if you're going to come on to this, but I thought we should just quickly highlight this because you mentioned just me off air, and I think we should just bring this up. Spain's track record with head coaches isn't great. Their predecessor, you said, I think lasted, what was it, 30, 40 years. It was 1988 to 2015. Ignacio, was it Cuadrado? Was it Corrado?
No, Ignacio
Quierda, yeah. And he was dismissed for, he was caught being abusive, wasn't he? Or abusive language and acting towards, was it Losada on the touchline? And that was at the 2015 World Cup. So they got rid of him. He wasn't a nice person, wasn't a good egg. And then Jorge Vilda gets in, and I believe you talked before, in circumstances, shall we say. There was a bit of a upstairs, and he became coach. I should say I want to criticise, because as England fan, we've had coaches be appointed who, let's say, may not have a track record in the women's game, may have got in through means other than their coaching abilities, and have gone on to take in the tournament. So I'll just put that record. We are not, alone in this.
Yeah, I mean, Spain's track record with coaches is really bad, and the sad but also interesting fact is that in 2015, Ignacio Quierda was dismissed, or I shouldn't even say, I wouldn't use the word fired, but he resigned in a way.
He was asked to resign, would you say, probably?
yeah, because the thing is that I know this is something that we're going to get into later, but it's like 15 players stood up right now against the federation, but back in 2015 you had the entire team standing up again against a coach who was abusive and homophobic and narcissistic, and name whatever you want to say. There's a very beautiful documentary on this entire situation as well, that if people get an opportunity, obviously it's in Spanish, but if people get an opportunity, they should watch it. But the thing is that even back in 2015, it was the players standing up against the federation, against the coach, is how the coach went away. And the thing is that I wouldn't say the main, but the ones that were spoken about the most was Veronica Buquet, and Vicky Lozada, alongside some of the other players. It was the entire team standing up, but these two players per se, really, when their names got out, when they were the main faces of this entire situation and everything, they never came back to the national team after the coach went away.
And so Vilda never called them up again.
No, they were never called up again. They were never seen in the national team ever again.
And then we flash forward now to 2022, and there's an element of it's all come full circle again. You have the players standing up to the coach, and this is where the 15 come in. And
it's a very sad situation, because it's like, at the time, even in the documentary, it's mentioned that the players took a stand not just for themselves but also for the future, because you had Alexia Putellas, you had Leila Wahabi, you had Mariona Caldente, you had Jenny Hermoso. These players were young at the time. You had all these players who are possibly there right now. Some of the players who were there back in 2015 as well. And these players were very young at the time, who possibly didn't understand much of what was, I wouldn't say much, didn't understand what was happening, but they were pretty early on in their careers to make such a massive decision, of standing up against the national team. So, it was the veterans of the team at the time in 2015 that took the stand and decided that, they were going to do this for the future generation so that they wouldn't have to face what they are facing right now.
But of course, they've had to face it anyway, which is just.
That's the sad reality, is that cut to 2021, 2022, they're still facing it.
So what? Just obviously we've said about the players obviously have complaints. Just what were the nature of the complaints of Vilda? What we can say, shall we say? What was it? Just purely that he's an incompetent coach, or were there things beyond the tactics or lack of?
I mean, the players came out, to later state that, they were never complaining against the coach. So we're going to take their word that, they never complained about the coach. But, their major complaints have mostly been on a sporting level. In terms of, if you go to see, they have very recently, should I say just a week ago, approximately, they have hired a nutritionist for the World Cup for the very first time. Can you imagine, Adam, a professional team not having a nutritionist?
So it's more of an attack on the federation and the way that they run or not run the team, not supplying them with the professional tools they require.
Exactly, in a way, because before the Euros, they came out with the whole equal pay project, should I say, where they were saying that equal percentages were going to be provided to the team, and the conditions were going to get better, as stated by them. And this is something that Alexia, in her documentary, which is, I know, very much limited still in Spain, and a few parts of Latin America where you can watch it. But if everyone gets the opportunity to, I think they should watch it again. But in her documentary, she mentions how it is not worth going to a camp where there is no professional environment. No.
I mean, if you want to have a non-professional environments, is what you had 10, 20 years ago.
Exactly.
But the game has moved on. But there are so many countries. I mean, we've seen obviously with there was somebody who now had to have a GoFundMe to get an injury fixed, and there was, I think it was the Jamaican FA. There've been complaints there, so it's still happening. It's still happening even now, which is just madness. And for a team like Spain.
To just give you a very small example that Alexia used in her documentary, is that how. Say, for example, the English team, the team from England, go from one location to another, and they're using a plane, and they're going to reach there in, say, an hour and a half or 2 hours at max. If it's within Europe, they reach within 2 hours max, and that's done for them. They're not wasting as much time. But for Spain, they're going to be traveling the entire day because they're going to be traveling by bus.
Which is they're going to be so that the Spanish players at the New Zealand World Cup are going to be bussing it everywhere.
No, not right now. But this was what used to happen previously.
Oh, used to happen. Sorry. Yeah.
Is an example given by Alexia that this is what used to happen, and they would use their entire off day. Their day off would go away in traveling. So practically, they realistically don't have any rest. And
we should. Yeah. Oh. Sorry.
Another very important thing that should be included in this is because this was again one of the biggest concerns I feel even the players had, because we had as well, was how the injuries were treated. How injuries were managed, because you had Jorge Vilda, who would bring on Mariona Caldente. Okay, and I'm giving her example because this is very evident to people, because this happened at the Arnold Clark Cup as well. Where Mariona had just come back on from a long-term injury, and she was made to, she'd hardly played like 30 minutes maybe at most, or 45 minutes maybe at most with the club, and she was made to play the first game against Germany. She was made to start the game.
Yeah.
And within the first 20 minutes of the game, she got injured again. she relapsed, same leg, same injury, and we did not see her again for 3 months again. So and this was not the first time that it had happened, because he's done that with multiple players multiple times. He's done that with Mariona herself multiple times. So it's like, how is the national team actually managing these injuries? Because if I'm not wrong, the club, has been angry about the fact that the players go and then always come back injured.
It's not isolated to Barca. We've had this same argument with our national men's team. We all see online the outrage when Bukayo Saka gets called up for huge, crucial qualifiers against North Macedonia and Moldova, and you think, just let someone else have a go, And that's why we also see players mysteriously get injured on international breaks before they go out, and then are mysteriously fit again when the international break is over. So no, it's not isolated to Spain, but yeah, we do see it a lot. I just want to go on the
another. I'm sorry about that, but another thing I want to add is the fact that his insistence, Jorge Vilda's insistence on using the same player over and over again and again and again. Like, at the Arnold Clark Cup, you have players who have basically been spending a lot of time playing for the club. So they've added on a lot of minutes. And then you just happen to wonder that the Arnold Clark Cup, at the end of the day, is a friendly. Okay, I understand.
I don't think we see it as a friendly.
I mean, I see it as a preparation.
It's very prestigious.
But any game like the February FIFA window, I think, in my opinion, is a friendly at the end of the day.
Yeah.
So it's like, do you realistically see players who are coming from playing multiple exhausting minutes at the club play 3 full games in short bursts all over again? Like, is it worth it? In my opinion, not realistically. No. Like, I'm not denying that the national teams meet up at for short periods of time after very long breaks, but my biggest problem is I'm not saying that you don't play these players. I'm saying you play them in moderation. You have a group of 23 players realistically for a reason, for you to rotate these players, but instead you have players, for example, and I say this purely from a Barcelona perspective. You had Patrick Guijarro, you had Aitana Bonmatí, and you had Alexia Putellas basically play 270 minutes.
And then when you get to the Euros, you see Alexia do her ACL, and you think, and it's the same
did that happen?
Yeah, I know. And we've seen now with Arsenal, we've had 4 ACLs this season just now. And you think, how much of that was the intensity of playing these games, playing in Europe, playing the Euros beforehand, struggling with options. So the squad is narrowed down even more. There's less chance to swap people, that more injury, and it just sort of snowballs. So I do have a level of sympathy. However, Serena didn't rotate her team throughout the entirety of the Euros, and we won it. So it can work the other way. But I do 100% get the whole. Yeah, you have. It's not an 11-player squad. It's a 23-player squad. There are other players. You can rotate. And I think with Serena, what the clever thing she did is that these players didn't burn out on 90 minutes every game. There was 60-minute games. You bring the finishers off, as you say in the rugby. So you do manage the minutes. Just wanted to just quickly on the 15. There's a lot of big names on this list, some of which are not going to be at the World Cup. So players like Sandra Panos, players like, please do shout at me if I'm wrong, but I believe the likes of Sandra Panos, Lucia Garcia, Mappy Leon, Lea Alexandri, Claudia Pina, Patria, I think Patria said earlier. But however, the likes of Onya Batia, Bonmati, and Caldente have agreed to come back and have been welcomed back into the team. I believe there are other players who have sent a letter suggesting they would like to join back up again, but that request has not been honoured. I think per se they are still out in the cold. So currently there are 12 players, 12 star players. You can find the list online. I would read them all out, but as you've already heard, my pronunciation of Spanish names is terrible. I don't want to disgrace myself. But they are online. I mean, actually, if you do, are you able to recite the names yourselves of the 15 players?
Okay, so I can tell you so there are two factors involved in this.
Yeah.
Actually, let's just say there are three different positions right now. Is that one was that the players who requested that they wanted to come back and they came back. That's one. Then there is another one where players requested to come back but aren't back on the team. And Jorge Vilda has stated that as sporting reasons. I kind of possibly might not agree with at least some of them. But yeah, that's that. And then you have the third group, which is basically players who felt that the changes made at the national team were not enough. And so they never sent an email again stating that they are eligible to make a comeback. So the players who said that they don't want to come back and did not send the emails are Mapi Leon, Patrick Guijarro, Claudia Pina, Amayur Sariegi, Nerea Izaguirre, Ainhoa Moradza, and I think I'm missing one more, Lola Gallardo. So these are the 7 players who basically said that they are not going to be coming back, and they did not send these emails stating that they want to be back. So they weren't eligible. And out of which Mapi Leon and Patrick Guijarro, alongside Lola Gallardo, have been kind of very open about the fact that the changes have not been enough. And that's the reason why they put their personal health first, and they prioritize their health and their physical and mental health. They prioritize that first, and that's the reason why they prefer to sit out. Like Mapi gave a very extensive interview on why she wants to sit out. Similar to Patri, but Mapi is Mapi and Patri are arguably one of the biggest losses. You can possibly imagine, because it's a huge thing to give up on a World Cup. It's a huge thing to give up on a World Cup, and then for them to be taking I love the entire team. Okay, the entire Barcelona team. They're very close to my heart. Okay, but the amount of respect I have right now for these 7 players. It's like I respect every athlete in the world. I respect every player, even the ones who've gone back, but the amount of respect that I have for the 7 players who have stood their place and said that, I am not going to go back, because I feel like, they've kept on their stance, and they've stuck to their words, and they've just, my respect could not be any higher for them. The most amount of respect I could possibly have in me goes to them.
I mean, nobody passes up on a World Cup easily, because it is the pinnacle of sporting achievement. I mean, I'll go back to our men's team. There was a big shock when we had a really talented midfielder called Paul Scholes, who just retired from England duty. He wasn't happy with how he played and his time with the team, and it was always felt that he was the big gem that we really need. It was a really talented player that we need at this major. His last tournament was a Euro 2004. We didn't have him at the World Cup, and we never saw him play again for England. It's not an easy decision to make, to pull out, because this is where you are immortalised. Our lioness is at the Euros. And Euros not quite the World Cup, but it's like its sort of little sister. They're all immortalised. They're on crisp packets. They're on banners. They're in if you go to Sainsbury's, they're on some of the signs in there. They are our heroes. And to pass up on that glory, potential glory, because of something you truly believe in, is honourable, and quite sad as well that despite everything, they're not going to go to the World Cup. I went to the Champions League final, as you know, and people may know as well listening. I went to a Champions League final in Eindhoven to watch Barcelona Wolfsburg. Brilliant game. The fact that I'm not going to see those players in the Barcelona team play at the World Cup is just staggering, and it's a real shame that this hasn't been solved, and that is. But it is what it is, unfortunately. Luckily, we should say on the positives, Alexia Putellas, back from injury, is playing in the World Cup, and I'm really excited to see her score because she's only scored one goal in the major tournament, as we mentioned earlier. So I really hope she gets her first World Cup goal this time around. And on that note, we shall segue to the World Cup, because this is actually what we were going to, the main point of this is to talk about Spain's chance in the World Cup. So obviously, huge absentees, most of them not injury related, as we discussed earlier. They are in a group that contain Zambia, Costa Rica, and Japan. Japan, of course, won the World Cup in 2011, which again is just one of those incredible miracle stories that, for all of USA's dominance in this thing, the fact that Japan beat them in the final, it's just, again, staggering. They are in the group with them as well. So despite the absentee, despite the fact that the star names aren't going to be there are plenty of talented players still in that team. Where do you see Spain going at the World Cup this year? We should say that George Vilda is still in charge. He is still the coach. He's still managing. It's the same setup as it was at Euro 2022. Most of the star names in Euro 20 obviously are now, they've stepped away. How can this team, despite everything, despite the manager, despite the absentees, go any better? Can they win a knockout game? Can they do it?
With the talent that they have, yes. But there's always a but involved.
Oh, yes.
I said this at the Euros as well. As much as I wanted Spain to win that one, there's always a but involved, especially when Spain is playing it, because Jorge Vilda has the capacity to make this team lose a game when they're winning it, as we've seen as well. So
as we discussed earlier, yes.
I think there is a possibility. Obviously they're gonna get out of the group stages, for sure.
I would expect them to beat Zambia and Costa Rica. No offense to those teams, but that's just what I expect. I think Japan is the interesting one.
This is where it gets very interesting. I don't know if you watched the game between Ireland and Republic of Ireland and Zambia,
No.
but here's the thing. We were kind of like having a discussion about this. Is the fact that Zambia came real close to beating Ireland. Okay.
Was it 3-2? Was it, or 2?
Yeah. It was 3-2.
Yes.
And you need to understand they had two goal scorers, chronic goal scorers, in Barbara Banda, and they we have heard that name back in the Olympics.
Yes, she's got a hat trick, didn't she?
Yes, she did.
Was it against the Netherlands, or was it against Brazil? I can't remember.
It was against the Netherlands, actually. Yes.
Yes, I remember her.
The thing is, the other player that I want to talk about in that team is Rachel Kundananji.
Okay.
She plays for Madrid Club de Fútbol, also known as Madrid CFF for the majority of you guys. But she recently, if anybody watches Barcelona, will know that she scored against Barcelona, and they won the game against us.
Was it 2-1 to? It was the one right at the end of the season, wasn't it? It was, because I remember that popping up, and people were like raised eyebrows.
It was the last game of the season where Alexia scored her comeback goal, the first goal after her comeback, and you have Rachel Kundananji scored 2 goals, a brilliant brace, and the fact that the team played a low block once again, and Rachel Kundananji, she's a fast player, okay? She's very fast-paced and was able to make opportunity a counter-attack and just punish Barcelona. and that's how we lost our one game of the season.
Oh, so close. So close.
So close. So close.
So close to. I know.
So close to another back-to-back
unbeaten season.
Unbeaten season, but yeah, she kind of did that. So it's like a question that was running in our heads, after this game, that there is a possibility that Rachel Pimenanji might make use of that knowledge that she has playing with Madrid CFF against Barcelona, because at the end of the day, there are similarities in terms of how Barcelona plays and how Spain plays. There are a lot of similarities. So I have a feeling that, I wouldn't say that Zambia will win, because, Spain does have goal scorers that, can make use of the opportunity. But what I will say is that Zambia could give them a tough fight.
I think like a 3-1 or a 4-2. I think they'll score, but I think Spain will outscore them. Well, we say outscore them. Scoring was their big problem at the Euros. Like we said with the low block and defence. And I hope they've got actually some stronger forwards this time around. Not just Alexia Putellas in the middle, but I hope they've got some decent strikers who are going to be on form.
I mean, Jenny Hermoso is back, so I have a feeling that she's been in good form with playing for Pachuca in Mexico, so she's in good form as well. And you have Salma Parayuelo, who is again a very young player, plays for Barcelona and incredibly fast. Does really well, can score some really good goals. Also, it's like we don't know what the final squad is, because only the 30-player list is out right now.
Right.
And on the 30th of June is when we're gonna know. After the 30th of June is when we're gonna know that who are the 23 players. They're going to be going to the World Cup. But I have a feeling like Salma Parayuelo is going to be a part of it. But yeah, Jenny Hermoso in good form, can score goals. So the Zambia is kind of a wild card for me in that opinion, especially after watching their game against Ireland. So I wouldn't count them out just yet. Similarly, Costa Rica, there is a good chance that Spain are going to obviously win that game, in my opinion. But then there is Japan, and this is where things get very tricky, is because I know people, they were kind of, I would say, disappointing at the Asian Cup, according to me. They were kind of disappointing at the Asian Cup, because I think we expected them to play better. But yeah, I think it was a very interesting game that they had against South Korea in the semifinals and all that stuff. No, wait a minute. It wasn't against South Korea. It was against China, actually. Yeah. So so I think the game against Japan for Spain is going to be a very tricky one, because Japan have the, I would say, the players who can possibly, overthrow Spain. But at the same time, you look at the talent that the Spanish squad has, then it just makes you wonder, like, if I would go individually, just by looking at the squads, I would say that Spain wins. But then there's also tactics into play. So,
well, this is what I was going to say. So we'll just talk about Japan. They've reached the final in 2 of the last 3 World Cups, which again is mad. But I remember watching the last World Cup, and they were a bit disappointing. I do think that they are a team that are they had 2 good World Cups. One of them are expense. But I think they have tapered off a bit. I think there is in club terms we say transition. There's an older guard retiring. Manu Ibuchi's not going to be there because unfortunately she never got a proper game this season, which is very sad. So it'll be interesting to see what happens with Japan. But yeah, I think you've highlighted the weird paradox with Spain, because there was always this big thing with the male Spanish team, that they had so much talent, and then they come to a tournament and then they just underperform massively, and there was always this weird sort of misalignment or with disjointedness between the form they exhibited at clubs, even in the Barcelona or scattered around Europe, and then when they came together and went for the country, it just never really sort of happened. And then they had that 3 tournament back to back when it was just Euro, World Cup, Euro, and they just looked like the greatest team that's ever played the game. And I do wonder with this women's team, at some point they are going to explode into gear and suddenly it's going to click, because as I said before, that there is a technical level in that Spanish team, which is they should beat every team. Like Barcelona, I've said it again and again. Barcelona beat pretty much everyone apart from I think it was let's say Bayern Munich in the Champions League last season. Everyone else they beat or drew. Damn you, Chelsea. But they were just rampant. They were dominant. And then I just think at the tournament, I want to see that level of, because they should be playing at that high level. They should be better than Zambia. They should be better than Costa Rica.
It's actually fascinating, like you said, but obviously the Spanish team right now is just not Barcelona. They have other players as well. But the funny fact is that if you look at this generation of players, it's you can be like, I am so confused. Like, as a coach, if I was a coach, I would say that I am so confused as to who I would be picking, as 23 players. Who
they're all good. They're all too good.
Yeah, they're all like brilliant, and it's like, who do you pick? And then you see the players that come through, and then you see them play, and then you see the tactics that come into play, and then you're just like, whoa, now we know why they're not winning. Because
this is what I've got to get to. Yeah.
I want to highlight this fact because I feel like many people are kind of not really understanding much of this. I feel like this is mostly a few of Vilda fans, as I would like to call them. But the thing is that when you watch like 2 teams play, and then you watch Spain play one side, and for example, I will take that friendly game against Australia for example. You had Spain play one side, and you had Australia play the other side. And Australia are missing all their big players, like, for example, Sam Kerr, Caitlin Ford, all these huge, massive players not playing there, not at the table at all. They're all on vacation. And you see Spain play with these giant, players like, Aitana Bonmati, Mariana Caldente, and, all sorts of different players. And, there comes a point where there's possibly maybe a injury break, and you see all the Australian players around Tony Gustafsson, discussing tactics, and Tony Gustafsson is throwing tactics at them, like, you need to do this, you need to do that, XYZ, whatever. And then you see Spain, and then you see Jorge Vilda standing like this, like hands behind the back. I don't know why I'm doing that action, but hands behind the back. He's standing there, and there are no players around him. What you do see is the players in the center of the pitch circling around, around Alexia, or circling around one of the players, and they're discussing tactics amongst themselves. Like, this is a common entity that has happened all the time. The Spanish Federation, has been highlighting the fact that, Jorge Vilda has done this, Jorge Vilda has done that. In fact, Jorge Vilda himself is very happy about the fact that he's won against the United States and drew against England, and all these previous games that he's played without the 15, players in the team. And let me tell you this. When they played against the US was playing with their C team, okay? Their C squad, I would say, not even the B squad, I would say the C squad. When they played against England had so many injuries. I would say, again, Sarina wasn't playing their the strongest squad, in my opinion. And it was, again, I would say, a B team. They did not do all that well against, in the Tournament of Nations when they went to Australia back in February for the friendly.
I want to say, sorry, Kyle.
So my question is, what are you being so proud about? I understand that you maybe won against the US, but it's a friendly at the end of the day. You know, this is gonna be like, this is a horrible shade, but this is gonna be like Tottenham Hotspur, you know, trophy cabinet, or
Audi
Real
Cup.
Madrid, yeah, Real Madrid Femenino trophy cabinet with saying like, we beat the United States in a friendly. Here is a trophy. Let me go and keep that in the cabinet. That's not how it works.
It doesn't mean anything.
And I know, like, you know, if any Real Madrid fans are gonna be here listening to this, they're gonna come at me and be like, "We're gonna come and beat you soon," and all sorts of things. But my point is, you cannot be taking these as your biggest achievement. That, you know, your biggest achievement should be, you know, we've won a trophy at a major competition. You haven't even won a, you know,
knockout
a trophy. No, like Adam, let's keep the knockout game aside. You haven't even won a trophy in a friendly competition.
What, they're not won at the Cyprus Cup or anything like that?
I mean, listen, we're not going to get into
okay,
that.
Well, I did want to get into is on the trophy side. Okay, in a hypothetical universe, Spain win the World Cup. Okay, great. But like, does that, in your eye, weaken the stance of the players who have sort of stood away, because it sort of reinforces or provides maybe a false positive reinforcement that Vilda is the man for the job if Spain go and win a trophy? And even though it wouldn't be on him, because the players, obviously we know the way the players work, the coach themselves, you said they go around the centre circle together and they do their tactics. Jorge Vilda wouldn't have really done anything apart from just stood on the sidelines with his hands behind his back. But does therefore Spain win the World Cup give him credit maybe he doesn't warrant?
No, not in my eyes. Not in my eyes, because in a way, I feel like the players know, and I'm pretty sure they do, that he's not going to go away. He's really not going to go away, no matter what comes out and no matter what is being said. Okay, I don't see that, you know, their stance is going to get, you know, weakened by any means, especially if Spain wins the World Cup, because, you know, this was a possibility that was taken into account, in my opinion, by these players, and that's when they said that, okay, you know what, we're not gonna come, you know, we're not gonna be a part of this World Cup and everything. You know what is going to happen though is the fact that if Spain goes out again, say for example in the round of 16 or the quarterfinals or any of the knockout games, you know who's gonna anywhere, you know, basically anywhere, any form of exit. Do you know what's going to happen is the fact that the players are going to be blamed, and you know who are going to be blamed? I can give you. There you go.
Yeah. But the thing is do you feel though that there's an element of, because of the negativity around the manager, there's an element of maybe. I think you sort of answered my question, because I was going to say, do you want Spain to fail because it might trigger something to change? But as you said, it won't change. It will just, the buck will always, nothing is going, he is the immovable object and everything just moves around him.
I feel like, you know, if something had to change, you know, it would have changed after the fact that Jorge Vilda was not able to, it was Jorge Vilda's kind of mistakes in a way that cost us the Euros. In my opinion, like in terms, I wouldn't say cost us the Euros, but I would say in a way that we never went to the semifinals, because if something were to happen, you wouldn't renew Jorge Vilda's or any manager for that matter's contract before a major tournament.
That was normally you renew after tournament based on the thing to do it.
Exactly.
To do it beforehand shows no almost not caring. Just like, doesn't matter if we win or lose, we're happy to carry on, which is a really interesting move.
Because you said this, I want to share this very interesting piece of news. So Relevo, who is one of the Spanish media outlets, you know, they recently did an interview with one of RFEF's officials within the federation, and he said that he was very happy how Luis Rubiales took charge of the 15 players.
Mm.
And that sort of, don't get me wrong, but that sort of tells you how things run in Spain. And there are a lot of things that I have learned now that I shouldn't be saying out in public. A lot
Don't
of
say
things.
Don't say I'm on here then. Don't say I'm on here.
But it's like I have learned now not to say a lot of things out there in public. But it kind of gives you a gist of how
Politics.
things run in Spain, how things just run, how football works in Spain. And another, I can give you another example as well, that recently Barcelona kind of made the news, and there were earthquakes all over Twitter, stating that there was a piece of news that came out on the radio that Barcelona has fallen out of love with Alexia.
I saw this. I saw this was hilarious. So there was a you messaged me about this and said, oh yeah, Barcelona and Alexia Bates have fallen apart. I'm thinking, no, they haven't. There is not a cat in hell's chance that is true. There's no way.
You texted me this and you were like, is there any truth to this? And I was like, Adam, what kind of question is this even?
It was just your reaction. I just wanted for the reaction, just to see if you'd actually genuinely panicked. That was all, because it was so ludicrous. It was just madness.
I remember how I sarcastically told you, yeah, she's going to she's going to be sold. I was like, she's going to be sold off to Chelsea for 50 million, and you were like, you are way too calm while all of this is happening. And I was like, Adam, please read my sarcasm right now. And
yes, I should clarify for the listeners. Like, I can dish sarcasm out. I cannot take it. I will take what you say at face value, unless you do that while speaking at me, or if you're texting, put like quotation marks, because otherwise I will take it as gospel. And I'm sorry, but that's just how I'm wired. It is one of my many weaknesses.
But then that was leaked, and immediately the next day you had Maria Ticas, who is, as I would like to say, and many Barcelona fans are going to agree, God for the club. Like in terms of like for us fans, she's God. We everybody is going to take her word. If she says that Barcelona has signed Unnati, meaning she has, like, Barcelona has signed Unnati, and we have to, agree with it, eyes closed, we believe it. So it was Maria Ticas, you had Catalunya Radio, you had Mundo Deportivo, who's again one of the news outlets from Barcelona, kind of support the club. You have basically two main media outlets in media outlet sides in Spain. One is the Madrid side of it, one's the
Barcelona. Yeah.
So every single news outlet from Barcelona, citing Barcelona, went out and was like, well, none of this is happening. This is not true. If anything, Alexia's contract, which is getting expiring in 2024, is already in talks of a renewal. And all those things come out, and then just I think the day prior or so, like maybe yesterday or the day before, FC Barcelona comes out with a NFT immortalizing Alexia. And then you think about it, and I'm saying this for people with a perspective who do not know anything about Spain, do not know anything about how Barcelona is, do not know anything about how Spanish clubs work. And you wonder, weren't Barcelona falling out of love with Alexia?
No,
why are
not
they
a
doing
chance.
this then? Why are they promoting her if they're falling out of love?
I could talk about this for the whole night, but we are going to have to sort of bring this to a close. I want to finish this just going back to the World Cup. A few quick yes or no's. Okay, do Spain get out the group? Yes or no?
Yes.
Do they win a knockout game? Yes or no?
I think this time, possibly, yes.
Are they going to win the World Cup?
No.
Is Alexia Bates going to be player of the tournament?
I hope so, and I really hope she is. But at the same time, okay, so I know this might sound very diplomatic.
That's not a yes or no answer, but I'll let you finish.
No, the reason I really want to clarify this is because she's just come out of a major injury,
Mm.
and the fact that the club has been very careful with managing her minutes. Okay, we've seen her play 15 minutes, 30 minutes, not go beyond 30, 35 minutes, and that's the kind of balancing act that Jonathan Giraldes and his team at the club have made sure that to manage her minutes well.
I should
So
just say
she had.
we only saw her get about 3 minutes in the Champions League final, which was great, but very disappointing because I wanted to get I wanted to see her play. She pretty much came on, kicked the ball, and the full-time whistle blew. It was very disappointing.
I mean, if you make me start talking about her, we're gonna be here all night.
I
But
know.
yeah,
We need to, yeah.
yeah. So I just want to complete it on this note. Is that while I would love for her to be the player of the tournament, I would forever say yes, yes, yes to me wanting her to be the player of the tournament. But at the same time, I know going into this World Cup, she's not played a single full 90-minute game. So for me, I think the biggest achievement for myself, not for Alexia. I know she is someone who is going to straight up go ahead with the attitude of wanting to win the World Cup and being at her best. But for me, the achievement of this World Cup would be Alexia Putellas returning back to the club, not injured, safely back with her two knees, two working knees, and no broken knees.
And
That's
maybe get a goal as well. Although I should say, given what you've told me about Jorge Vilda, I think we can expect him to play her 90 minutes every game until her knee gives out, and that is just simply based on what Leopards don't change their spot. That's their track record. I honestly, there is an element. I think Spain are a force that they are coming. Spain are inevitable, just as Barcelona are inevitable Champions League. Spain are going to explode on the international stage. Whether it's this one, I don't know. I think they will win a knockout game. I think they'll get to the quarterfinals. It's just I think it will then become experience and mentality. There's a lot of experienced teams in there who know how to win knockout games. They know how to take it into extra time penalties if need be. Spain are absolutely talented, uber talented, but as a team, as a unit, tactically, they are slightly weaker, whether they hold them back, but they're going to do it eventually. Whether it's Jorge Vilda or whether somebody more competent comes in, it's going to happen. And I hope they take that step forward in this World Cup. I really do, because I think they are too good a team to only be a last 16 group stage sort of team. I'm afraid that's all time we've got, and we have been going for quite a while, but it's been an absolute pleasure. Just one quickly last word on you, Unnati. Where can people find you on Twitter and Instagram and all the other socials?
Well, on Twitter, you can find me at Unnati Naidu, UNNATINAIDU _97. And on Instagram, you can follow my photography page, Unnati and Photo. And if you want to follow my other Instagram, this is _Unnati Naidu.
I should also add, if you want to hear read more of Unnati's thoughts on Jorge Vilda and Barcelona and the Spanish national team, please go to Sporting Her and have a flick with the articles. They are absolutely worth a read. If you want to follow me, can't think why, but you never know, you might be interested. You can follow me at AdamSalter4 on Twitter. But like I said, that's all we've got time for. Thank you so very much for listening in. Thank you very much, Unnati, for spending this extended time talking to me about Spain. We wish them all the best at the World Cup. But until then, have a good day, and thanks once again for listening.